Okay, so today we're doing experimental probability. We've already talked about theoretical probability quite a bit, and that's the probability that something should happen based on outcomes. Experimental probability is what did happen based on an experiment that was done. So, in this case right here, we have an experiment and it was flipping a penny. You will notice that there were 10 different trials of this experiment. So this event was performed 10 times and they recorded all of the outcomes of each of the trials. So I want to determine the experimental probability of landing on heads. Now, I know the theoretical probability of flipping a penny and landing on heads is 1 out of 2. But now this is different. I want to know experimental probability. So in an experimental probability, I have to look at how many times the trial was done. So that, or how many trials were done in the experiment, that is 10. And how many times that outcome happens. So I'm looking for heads, 1, 2, 3. So in this experiment, heads occurred 3 out of 10 times. That is experimental probability. So let's do a word problem. A number cubed with the numbers 1 through 6 is rolled 159 times and shows the number 4 27 times. Calculate the experimental probability of rolling a 4. So I've got to know the number of times the event occurred, or the number of trials, which is 159, and the number of times the outcome happened that I am looking for. So I'm looking for the probability that a 4 was rolled. So a 4 was rolled 27 times out of 159 times. And it could have been simplified to 9 over 53. Remember, always simplify it if it is possible. All right, now let's look at this. Now I just have a table that shows me all the outcomes, and I am going to have to determine the experimental probability. So I have to count up how many times it occurred, which was 16. It gives me that. And then I want to know the experimental probability of pulling a red marble or a blue marble or a yellow marble or a green marble from the bag. So red, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. So 9 out of 16 times a red was pulled. Blue, 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 16 times a blue was pulled. Yellow, what do you notice here? There were no yellow. So 0 out of 16 were yellow. And then lastly, green, 1, 2, 3 out of 16 were green. All right, so let's look at an experiment. The first thing we're going to do is read the problem. A spinner with the numbers 1 through 8 is spun 25 times. That tells me that this is out of 25. So I know that my total number of trials is 25. Now, what is the experimental probability of the spinner stopping on the number 4? So now I just have to count up how many times it stopped on the number 4. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4. So 4 out of 25 times this experiment was performed, it landed on 4. And there is your answer. So the difference between theoretical probability and experimental probability is theoretical is what should happen based on outcomes. Experimental is the number of times an event occurs to the total number of trials.